Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. I am artist Aaron Rutten, and I'm joined today by Lisa from Lachri Fine Art.
Hello.
Lisa is an artist and fellow YouTuber, a YouTuber who I've watched a lot of videos from. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Lisa.
My channel has 4 videos every week. I go from everything from critiquing my viewers' work, their artwork. I have tutorials, and then I give business art advice. I do my own Q&A videos and artist vlogs.
Cool. Feel free to chat in today and let us know that you can see and hear us all right. Feel free to let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for either Lisa or I about either traditional or digital art or both, feel free to comment in. Let's see, Mizoji Kun's here, Igor's here. Good to see you, Igor. Phantom's here, Bettina, Undead Crab, Emma. Emma says, oh my God, my two favorite artists and YouTubers I'm subscribed to. Thank you, Emma.
Oh, I love you, Emma. Also, I really like your name.
So no comments yet, or no questions yet. So I'll go ahead and just throw one of mine at you. How long have you been making art?
Pretty much my whole life. It was about 20 years ago that I decided to do this professional, though.
Cool. For me, yeah, I guess that's kind of been the answer that I've gotten from a lot of the artists that I've done hangouts with. You know, as soon as you can pick up a crayon, I think a lot of kids are making art. And really, there's a Pablo Picasso or somebody had a quote where, artists are basically kids who don't stop drawing, something along those lines. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't really like have a date where they were like, oh, in second grade, I decided I'd start making art or something. It's kind of something that you start doing and you never really stop.
Now, were you better than most kids your age, or were you pretty average?
Usually better, but there's always that kid, no matter which grade, who was better than me at something. So I'd always hear about that kid. I don't think I ever really saw anything or ever met them, but I'd always hear like, oh, you're pretty good, but then there's that one kid who can draw a really cool dragon or something. So, but people would in classes where we'd have group projects and people wanted somebody to draw something, I'd always get that delegated to me. How about you?
Yeah, I was not a child prodigy by any means. Actually, my mom went to my teacher. I think I was in first or second grade. All I would draw, no, it was kindergarten and first grade. All I would draw all the time ever was a rainbow. And I would write, this is a picture of a rainbow. That is it. And my mom went to my teacher. She was upset that I wasn't doing more, a bigger variety of things because she felt I wasn't going to be able to get a job as an adult if
Yeah.
that's all I ever learned how to do. So yeah, it was kind of funny. No, I was not above average. I think I was right there, average for kids. I drew more often, and that's why I ended up getting better as I just from practice, but I was not abnormally good at all.
Yeah. I think, I don't think it was till my 20s maybe where I actually started to try to learn principles of drawing and to try to emulate techniques. And, before that point, it was just kind of drawing little doodles and things that I thought were cool, like eyes and fan art kind of things. And, I didn't really try too hard to draw my own things until I was an adult.
Oh, I was trying. It just wasn't working for me. I did get really good at drawing orcas, though. That was the one thing that I got like super, super good at early on. So I kept drawing them.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
Well, it's good to be able to specialize in things. I draw a lot of Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. So, Undead Crab says it's never about starting to draw. It's about never stopping. Oh, that's good.
Definitely agree.
Orion says, where do I ask a question? You can ask a question right here in the comments, and we'll be happy to answer it.
Or possibly ignore it if we miss it, because I'm
Yeah,
bad about
I'll try to catch it. Jethro says, hi from the Philippines. My question is, what are your tips about mixing colors as I'm struggling in that field?
You want me to go?
Sure.
You just start and you make mistakes and you go, wow, those colors looked terrible together. I'm never mixing those two together like that again. It's trial and error. You can read every color theory book out there, and those are helpful to read, but they're not going to make a whole lot of sense until you've experienced do wrong again and again. Don't be afraid of those mistakes. everyone thinks that they've got to instantly be good. You don't. You're going to make some pretty ugly paintings. That is a part of the learning process. And those mistakes are just as important as your wins. You've got to make the mistakes in order to get there and learn. So to learn to mix color is just trial and error. Mix something, it looks terrible, try something else.
Hmm. I feel like what helped me the most in acrylic painting was getting a color wheel and then being able to see what's in between, let's say, two particular hues, and then that kind of gives me more of an idea of how the colors might kind of go together, because a lot of the painting I did initially before I really got heavily into acrylic was all digital, and the two color models are completely different. The way that color combines and mixes on a computer is additive, where colors combine to make white, whereas in traditional media like paint, acrylic paint, it's a subtractive color model. So when you mix all your colors together, you end up getting a dark color. And so to be able to differentiate between the two, I think was really helpful. But then on top of that, there was a video I watched which was really interesting, where a guy kind of takes the two color models and overlaps them on each other. And you start to see that there is actually kind of a unification of the two models. And I think understanding both of those is very helpful, whether you're just a traditional artist or just a digital artist. I think having some skills that can carry over from one to the other are very beneficial. Um, let's see. Igor just started their art class for junior year, and they're not sure how they feel about it. Is there a moderator here? There's no moderator. But feel free to point out anything that we should be aware of in the comments. And if we don't get to your question, feel free to just post it again. That way I'll see it down there at the bottom, because I'm not exactly the best at getting all the questions either. So I don't see any other questions yet. I might have missed one, but let me just throw another one at you. I know the answer to this because I've watched a lot of your videos, but or I think I know the answer. What are some of your favorite subjects and genres to paint?
Definitely wildlife and surrealism. Those are my absolute favorites. I have just always loved animals so much, and because it's not convenient to keep an owl or a flamingo in my apartment, I'm going to paint them.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get one of those flamingos to come home from the zoo with me, though.
Yeah, you just need a really long, really tall bag or something, and some krill. Make a trail of krill over the
Yeah.
fence, and um, that's interesting. I would say wildlife painting and surrealism are among my favorites. I don't do a lot of surrealism anymore because I think a lot of the videos I do are usually demonstrations or tutorials, and I feel like that's a harder thing for me to explain. I think a lot of that's just up here, and it's like for me to explain why I had that idea or why I did something that way is not something that I can really explain as easily as I can when I'm describing how to paint a mountain.
Yeah. I
I
don't really explain why I do things because I do some really, goldfish floating around a cheetah. I do some
hmm
odd things. I don't bother trying to explain them. I just show
yeah.
them how to do it.
Yeah, I think I'm just in the mode of trying to thoroughly explain everything, and then sometimes you don't really need to, and I think I need to do more demonstrations where I'm doing paintings that I want to paint rather than painting things that I think people are going to want to see. That's something
Yeah,
that
that's a lot of what I do. I kind of mix in stuff that interests me along with stuff that other people request. So, like, I just
mhm.
did a tutorial on how to draw rain because I've gotten so many requests for that. But normally it's stuff I want.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of surrealism for a while. I think from about 2008 to about, oh, I don't know, 2013 or so. I think a lot of my work was surrealism, but it's all over the place. I like to have variety, which I can tell you do too, because I see a
Yeah.
lot of different things.
I get bored if I try to do the same thing too much. The same thing with mediums. If I do just one medium too many times in a row, I start to get burnt out. So if I
Yeah,
mix it up every week, I'm doing something different. It I don't get that burnout that I
yeah.
would if I try to do colored pencil every week or whatever else.
And I think that's a good tip. A lot of people talk about artist block, and like I get stuck, I don't know what to paint. And I think if all you're doing is one particular thing, you are going to get burned out on that. And so even if you're not as comfortable painting portraits or still life or abstract art, trying that and getting a little experience doing it will give you a break from, the everything that you're doing but it also gives you some practice and some insight into other forms of art that might be useful to the kind of
Yeah.
art that you paint primarily.
Well, the nice thing too, I think, about trying something that you're not usually doing, even if it's a completely different style, like you normally do realism, try impressionism, try abstract, because it'll give you a lot more respect for the artists who do it, because it's so easy. I think a lot of times real artists who focus in realism like to think, oh, impression, it's easy, it's not real art. I hear that a lot. Or abstract, it's so easy. It's not. You still have to know balance. You have to understand color. You have to understand a lot of things. So I like to get artists to try something completely different than what they normally do, if nothing else, just to have a little bit more respect for artists who do work in that style. It
Yeah,
gives you just, I think, a much better insight on that.
definitely. I have a video I did. It was kind of poking fun at Mark Rothko, that painting he did of the yellow and blue. Have you seen that? It sold for like
I,
40 million or
yeah.
something. But I basically did a tutorial of how to paint that, and it wasn't necessarily knocking it. It's just kind of poking fun at it, but that's at the same time showing that yellow and blue are complementary colors. There's the seven elements of art, and in that one particular piece, he does encompass quite a few. He has texture, he has line, he has space, he has color, he has form, he has shape. He might have all of them. What's the other one I'm missing? There's
Well,
one more.
another thing too, I think that a lot of artists miss out on, they see stories like that and it angers them. And oh my gosh, it's just a dot. It's just whatever. You know what? It's about marketing. If you want to sell your artwork, it doesn't matter how amazing you are. You can be the best artist in the world, but if you don't market it, you're not going to sell it. This
Hmm.
guy marketed himself. He made a name for himself, and that's why it sold. It was his name. People are buying into his name. That's the
Yeah,
biggest factor there. And I think so many artists miss out on that. And that's why a lot of artists, the whole starving artist thing, that happens because we suck at marketing. We
yeah.
suck at selling ourselves and getting our name out there. And it's not just post on Facebook all the time. There's more to it than that. Learning business and marketing is just as important as learning to master your medium.
Yeah, and a lot of artists are resistant to that because they just want to make art, and that's fine, but you're going to be the kind of artist that makes a lot of art and has a lot of art for yourself, and no one's ever going to see it. And people have different goals, I think, as artists. Not everybody cares about getting their work seen, but I think if that is your goal, you do need to invest a little more time into being a business person. It's not like you have to go out and take business courses and things like that. You can pick
Yeah,
up a lot
yeah.
of
No, you
stuff.
can learn everything online.
Yeah, just trial and error. I wouldn't even imagine sending out a tweet years ago. I'm like, what is the point of that? I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not
That is
gonna
the most narcissistic thing ever.
Yeah, and then
Why would
now it's
anyone care
like
what I'm
you set up buffer and you schedule 10 tweets ahead of time, and you
doing?
find that you tweet a link to a product and you sell that product, and then you go, okay, that's why people tweet. And it
Yeah.
takes hardly any time at all. I mean, really, like, you're going to be on your way to somewhere in the car or something. Hopefully you're not driving while you're doing this, but you'll have time to look at your phone throughout the day. Well, while you're checking Facebook or something, why not tweet a picture of your art, or share
Yeah.
share a picture of your art on Instagram, or promote yourself in a small way. It adds up. It's not going to work every single day, but it's a start. And once you become more comfortable doing that, I think tackling more each day becomes easier and easier. Like if you look at something like Lisa or I do in a day, we probably field a lot of emails, deal with a lot of different comments and different things on all kinds of different websites. And for some people, it would be overwhelming, but for us, we've kind of gotten in the flow of it. So it's the daily routine. I thought we had another question
Another
here.
one from Orion, who's asked a couple of times. He does both digital and traditional, and he doesn't have time for both. Which should he choose? Whichever one you're in the mood for, honestly.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer there. But you've asked a
Yeah.
couple times, so I just wanted to
Oh, okay.
address.
Um, I think in that regard, I just want to say that there's a lot of people who think that you have to choose between one or the other, and digital art is just a medium. It's like charcoal, oil, acrylic. You're There's no one sitting there going like, I mean, there probably are, but there aren't as many people sitting there going, gee, should I draw in charcoal or should I draw in graphite? And like, well, I can't do both. I got to choose one or the other. That's kind of how it is with digital art. You can do both. There's people who combine both. There's people who sketch on paper, scan their image, color it digitally. There's people who do digital paintings and then paint over them after with paint, and so there's
Yeah.
a lot of crossover there. And to be skilled at both, I think, makes you a better artist because to be skilled in multiple different mediums gives you a lot of skill you can carry over. So.
And it's useful to know both anyway. I mean, like right now, I'm designing a piece for a company and I've got to do a layout for them. That's going to be way easier to come up with the well, I can't think of the word I'm doing, just the layout, the design
Hmm.
in Photoshop, do it digital versus trying to do it, coloring it. And it saves me a lot of time to be able to do that digitally.
Hmm.
Knowing how to do both is a pretty useful thing.
It is. It's working smarter instead of harder is always good. I think that's a Scrooge McDuck quote. Um, um, Doing a little bit of everything is the magic formula, says artist Madro. That's definitely true. Skylit says, "What's your opinion in starting realism, then cartoon/comics, or vice versa? Which is an easier approach?" Um, I guess does that mean starting out with realism rather than cartoony style?
Well, my advice there, I see a lot of artists who they don't want to learn realism because they only want to do cartoons, but they never learned anatomy because of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do your stylized work well, I would say learn realism too. Don't just do one. Like one of the things people don't realize, Picasso was a freaking master at realism. His work was phenomenal. You would never know it was the same guy who was painting noses on the side of people's cheeks. But he did. And he was able to then apply what he knew about anatomy, although he was applying it oddly. But that, I think, led him into the path that he ended up going. The fact that he was able to do both, that meant something. That made a big difference. It also, I think, gave him a bit more respect in the art community because people were able to look at it and go, okay, he knows how to paint realism. He's choosing not to, versus somebody who's like, oh, they just don't know how to draw well. That's why they're drawing that way.
Yeah.
I think that there's that credibility factor is pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Cartoons are, in a way, a distortion of reality, and so when people are drawing cartoons, I think they're doing a lot of exaggerations where they know. Let's say you're going to draw a baby, you might give it really big eyes and you might make the eyes even bigger because you know a little bit about anatomy. You know the ratio of eyes to babies versus adults. Maybe if you're drawing an old man, he'll have big ears and a big nose because that's something that doesn't ever stop growing on people. So, to
Ruin
be
someone's life by informing them of that, by the way.
um, to be able to draw cartoons, I think you have to know why you're exaggerating things, and I think you have to know why you're changing the anatomy intentionally rather than just cartoonists aren't born just knowing how to draw cartoons. I think they probably learn a little bit of both, and then some people kind of go one direction or go the other depending on what their preference is. Some people want to draw realistically, some people don't, and then they make that decision.
I think Aaron Blaise is such a good example of that. He's the animator who did The Lion King or worked on The Lion King. He did Brother Bear. He's done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that you probably know. He is amazing at realism. He doesn't just draw cartoons, doesn't just draw stylized stuff. He knows how to draw things into the cartoons and into the stylized work. He does both. And if you follow him, you can see where he'll do something and you're like, wow, that looks like a
Mm-hmm.
photograph. And then he'll turn around and draw this character that's just so unique and so creative. It's not like doing one is do one or the other, but I think it's just so important to learn the realism side, to
Mm-hmm.
learn the anatomy and everything else.
Definitely. Um, let's see here. How can someone? I'm not going to read this exactly as it's typed because it has a naughty word in it. How can someone market abstract art properly without BSing it? I guess is what they're saying.
Sometimes abstract is someone's passion. And whether you like it or not, somebody else is going to want to buy that, and somebody loves to create it. So it's not, it's always funny to me how many people judge other artists for what they like to create.
Mm-hmm.
I am not personally a huge abstract fan. That doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong. The people
Yeah.
who create it love it, just like those people are not always a huge fan of realism.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me all the time, well, what's the point? Why don't you just take a photo? This is what I like to create, and I think that goes both sides. If this is what you like to create, it's easier to market something that you're passionate about. Now, someone like me trying to create abstract and market it, yeah, I would feel like I'm kind of fudging it a little bit, because just selling for the sake of selling, because that's not my passion. But I think if that's what you love to do, you're not having to BS it. You just, that's what you love.
Mm-hmm.
So you would market it like anything else.
I I think if you can get people to appreciate what goes into abstract art, and I have a video, how to make abstract art, you can watch, which the picture, if I just showed the picture, it would just be a bunch of shapes and colors, and you could look at it and go, okay, that's what it is. But when you watch me create it in the video, I'm being very intentional about each step. I'm making the group of shapes a specific size and distribution. I'm choosing specific colors so that they're harmonious with each other. And I'm doing that not because I do a lot of abstract art, but because I kind of want to show that superficially it looks like not a lot goes into that kind of art, but when you think about it and you break it down into the individual components, it actually is in a way more expressive than you think it is. I mean, the stuff you see like Jackson Pollock, him throwing paint everywhere, that's his energy and that's his motion going into that paint. And you don't see that so much with really finely drawn, intricately blended things. You know, that's a very delicate process that doesn't necessarily show you the amount of like physical energy and movement that went into that piece. And so the two pieces, you know, Mona Lisa and Jackson Pollock's, you know, one of his paintings, they're two very different paintings, but the impression that you get looking at those paintings is very different. One is kind of calming and the other one is really active, and, you know, I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but as far as describing that kind of art, I find that to be difficult. You know, what do you title something that's a bunch of swirls and stuff like that? That's always tricky.
I think you would focus on the emotion that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a way to go that way. I don't know. I've not had to market it, so I haven't done much
Yeah.
research in how best to do that.
Here's a good one from Orion Fine Art. How should I make digital art prints? And let's just say prints in general. Do you want to start on that one?
I personally use Fine Art America just because I don't have time to ship stuff. I used to make prints or have prints done through Vistaprint, and they were hit or miss. I had some prints come through that were just super dark and terrible looking, and I had to have it redone, and that was an ongoing problem with them. But if I got a good print with them, I could sell it for a much higher profit rate, I guess, than what I would do for a print on demand. But the thing is, then I had to pack it and ship it, and it was a lot of work for me that I just don't have time for.
Mm-hmm.
So now I use Fine Art America, where all my prints are just on my shop there. I put how much I want to make. Fine Art America tacks their amount onto it. I don't have to ship anything. I don't have to deal with returns or anything like that. It is all on Fine Art America side. So for me, that's been the best way to go. But that's like everything else. A lot of people are always asking, how do you sell more prints? How do you do that? It's like anything else. You have to market it. Just putting it on Fine Art America doesn't mean it's going to sell. Everyone who's bought a print from me did so through my website, or because they knew who I was first, not because they happened to find me on Fine Art America. You're going to be flooded on something like that with other artists doing very similar things. So you've got to go back. It comes back to the business and marketing that we were talking about earlier. You have to learn how to market that and sell your work that way, if you do choose to go with a print on demand type thing. But that for me has been a really good experience, and currently the only way that I sell prints.
I was using Zazzle, but I put in a lot of effort into Zazzle. Like, I built a, you know, pretty huge store with a lot of stuff, and I make hardly anything off of it. But I'm not putting a lot of effort into promoting Zazzle. If I put the amount of effort into promoting Zazzle that I put into promoting YouTube, I'd probably sell more prints.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have not done a really good job of promoting it. I just throw it on my website. It's there, but I haven't really pushed it too hard either. When I do, that's when stuff sells more. But yeah.
I think, the print on demand, that's a good way to do it without having to really be involved in the process. Um, as far as things that I might want to sell locally, I'll go to Costco because I found that, and it sounds kind of lame, but Costco actually has a pretty decent print center, and they have, wrapped canvas prints and metal prints and things like that. And the quality of the gallery wrap prints I found was a lot better than some of the other stuff I've seen. So that would be my suggestion if you have a Costco in your area, to give them a try and just, maybe print from a few different places and compare their quality, because there's Zazzle, there's Society 6, there's Redbubble, there's Fine Art America, there's so many different websites that are essentially doing the same thing, but the quality might vary between those. Um, let's see. Wrathfire Gaming says, Lisa, thank you so much for your tutorials and videos. It has changed my art by leaps and bounds.
Aw, that's so, I love hearing that.
Yeah. Gracie says, when doing realism, would you suggest working from real people or from photographs/images on the internet? What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, what was that
Oh,
again?
okay. When
I was
doing
reading the other questions and just zoned out.
when doing realism, would you suggest working from real people or from photographs found on the internet?
They are okay. Photographs found on the internet. That right there is an issue because you're going to run into copyright problems. So I don't recommend just going and pulling photos off the
Yeah.
internet to draw. Find a royalty-free site like Pixabay or Morgfile or somewhere that does have. Make sure you're doing it legally. But drawing from life versus drawing from photo, they're two different skill sets. They are both valuable, and it's funny, there's like this debate in the art community. People who draw from life like to go off on those of us who use reference photos on how it's wrong and you're never going to learn to draw right and it's going to be two-dimensional. My work is not. My work is three-dimensional, and I
Yeah.
work from photograph. Work how you like, but it's completely up to you. For me, I like to work in my studio. I don't want someone in here posing for me. It's awkward and weird, and that's just not how I enjoy working. I would
Hmm.
rather take a photo of that person and work on them in my own pace and
Yeah.
by myself. So there's not a right or wrong way. I would say learn to do both. They're different. It uses different parts of the brain. It's not like you're amazing at one, so you're going to be amazing at the other. You have to exercise both those muscles.
Hmm. Exercise is a good analogy that I like to use too, because it's like when people are working out, bodybuilders, they're not just working just their arms. They're working their arms, their legs, their back, and so that's kind of what it comes down to. If you draw from life a lot and you're only working your arms, you're going to get really buff in your arms, but then another part of you is going to be weaker. And so to be well-rounded, I think, doesn't hurt. Um, as far as getting free images off the internet, you can do a Google search for images, and then you can filter it by Creative Commons or public domain. And so that's usually what I'll do. If I need a picture of a mountain or something, I'll filter it by public domain first, see if there's anything in there that I like. If not, then I'll do Creative Commons. And if I want to deal with the license and stuff, I'll go that way. But yeah, you definitely don't want to just take images off the internet that other artists have created, because that's the equivalent of you creating a painting and then someone coming along and taking your work and using it for something that they created and getting credit. So it's
Yeah, have respect for the photographers. That's their art. Don't just take it and use it how you want. You will get yourself into some serious legal problems for
yeah,
doing that.
definitely. As far as drawing from life versus drawing from photos, I like to do both. Again, I'll agree with Lisa here and say that I'd rather be more comfortable and draw from a photo in my studio without having to have whatever that is there. I'll go to the zoo with my tablet and I'll paint animals, but I'll be damned if I can get one of those turtles to stand still for more than 2 seconds. It's like the slowest animal in the zoo moves around the most. Try to draw something when it's constantly moving. It's really hard to do, and it's more difficult, but it forces you to really quickly make snap observations about things. Like you don't have a lot of time to look and study that same pose. You have to really quickly look at the angle of the head, or really quickly look at where the legs are positioned and things like that. And I found that's the more I've been doing that, the more it's helped me be a little more quicker and more spontaneous about drawing.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, they'd still like to know how to make prints. I thought we covered that,
Yeah, we're
but
good.
feel free to
I got
clarify
a
if.
video on it. If you look it up, Lachri and Prince, I talk about that, but
Hmm.
there might be a little bit more information, but it's basically what we talked about.
Do you have an Instagram?
Yes.
Okay, I just recently started one, so you might know more about this than me. Yi Ching Lin says, "Is it possible that an Instagram page which contains very different styles, from pure art to design, will get a lot of fans?"
I don't see why not. It's all, I mean, a lot of it's in your hashtags. Is what you're creating interesting to people? Is it something people are going to want to look at? That's, put yourself in the viewer's shoes. Would you follow that account? Is that account interesting to you? That's what you want to try to create.
Hmm. I just recently started doing it. It was, again, one of those things that I was resistant to, and my other artist friends are like, "Start an Instagram," and I'm like, "I don't want to. Like, I've already got Facebook and G Plus. I've got all these things. I don't have time for it." And then, I found it's not that bad. I can post stuff to Instagram, and I do see the value in it because it's more image based. It's not like you really
Yeah.
have to spend a lot of time talking about what you're doing. You just post the image, people see it, they like it, and it's a very quick and easy thing. Um, and yeah, I don't see why variety would hurt. I mean, I know there's probably, generally speaking, people who are very focused tend to get more views, I would imagine, but there's just as many people out there who like variety versus people who like one specific subject. So,
One thing that you may want to do too, that I'm starting to do more and more, I've made a little logo that says Lachri Fine Art with the teal because those are my colors. Um, I'm putting that logo because I post photos of my dogs too, which I call my studio assistants. If someone followed me from art and they see this random photo of dogs in their bed sleeping, like who am I following? Unfollow. I don't know
mm-hmm.
what this person is. If I
Yeah.
put that logo on every single thing, it's like, oh, okay, that's this person's. That's
Ah,
why I'm following. That's right. So that's an option if you are doing a lot of different things to maybe make that logo that you can drop onto each image that you upload so that it kind of ties everything together.
yeah. And I've recently been seeing the value in that too with YouTube thumbnails. Like I have logos and things, but I don't like to put them on everything because I kind of feel like it's too many logos. But then thinking about it from the YouTube thumbnail and the suggested content point of view, if your thumbnail comes up in suggested content, it's completely out of context now, and it's lumped in with all the other thumbnails. But if someone sees your logo on that, which you've done a really good job of, all your thumbnails have your logo and
Yeah.
Lachri on there. People can see in the related videos that these are more of your videos, and then they're more likely to click on them to get more of your content. So
Yeah.
the same would go for anything you post. If you want people to know it's you, the branding is a good way to do that. Even if you think that people already know your work and they'll recognize you, chances are there's going to be people who don't know you, who don't know to look for those certain things, and the branding helps them a little bit. Um, Anurag says, "What is the best or most comfortable time for you to do a sketch, or do you just doodle?" Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading this strangely. "What is the best or most comfortable time for you to do a sketch, or just doodle or practice?" Um, for me, the most comfortable time to do a sketch, I guess, is whenever I have time to draw. I don't know that there's a particular like time of day or day out of the week. It's just whenever I have time to do it, I'll do it. And I think generally a lot of the drawing that I'm doing is mainly for demonstration purposes. I'm not doing a whole lot for myself right now. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
Yeah, I don't think I've got anything much better. I like to draw at night just because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, making art is my job, and I have to get an entire painting done every week, unless I split it up into like a 2 or 3 parter if it's a really long one. But I mean, I generally get one new piece done each week, so it's not something where I can be like, I'm in the mood to paint right now, so I'm going to paint. It's pretty much, I need to get this done, so I
Yeah.
have to sit down right now and work, no matter what.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm scheduling time for myself to paint, whereas I'm not just sitting around with nothing to do, and I'm like, I kind of feel like sketching. It's like I need to do a video, or I have something that I planned out ahead of time, and then I'll do it. I do like to work at night more too. I think during the day it's like I'll get up and I have to get into the, get in the mood to want to make art and to want to work, and so it
Yes.
takes a little time. I try to do some of the easier things like answer emails and comments and things that I can kind of do without having to think or move too much. And then
That's
later
I
in the
usually
day,
do my video editing during the day, or
yeah,
I say morning, but I don't get up till noon, so I don't know that that counts as morning to most people.
yeah,
But I normally do it around, that's the first thing I do because it's not. I don't need any creative juices flowing. Then it
hmm
just I can kind of zombie out while I'm editing.
yeah, and you end up editing faster that way too. I find like if I'll end up going through and just looking entirely at the audio and not even look up at the video sometimes, and just like I just get in the zone to where I know
Yeah.
where I need to make cuts instinctively and things like that. Um, let's see. Orion wants to know, how would I paint plein air with a digital medium? I have a Galaxy Note 10.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
how would I mean, really, you just take it outside and paint with it. I haven't used that particular device. I'm going to imagine that the screen is probably pretty glossy on that. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be your worst enemy painting outside is your screen, no matter what device you use, because you're probably standing, your screen's probably pointing straight up, sky's reflecting light down. You're going to have a hard time seeing what you're drawing. So I would recommend going in the shade or getting an umbrella, standing under a tree, anywhere shady where you have something overhead that's going to block a lot of the glare. And then other than that, I mean, if you have a drawing application and you have a subject to paint, that's really all you need. I'll use my Cintiq Companion too and go out to the zoo, or I'll go to the beach or go to the woods and do paintings there, and it's a lot of fun. Do you do any plein air painting, Lisa?
I don't like to go outside. I am like the biggest nerd ever. I want to hide in my studio
Yeah.
and yeah, so no, I don't like I have in the past. I used to live in Southern California and I went and set up down at the beach and would paint out there and it's like the wind's blowing things over. Then there's bugs and
hmm
there's just it's hot and I'm getting sunburned and no, I like to stay inside and be a vampire.
It's a lot more of a hassle, I think, to take out
Yeah.
traditional media easel, and then you get your painting done and it's still wet. You have to put it in a special box,
Yeah.
and there's a
A
lot
lot of
more
people
to it.
enjoy it. I don't want to imply that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my
Yeah,
preference.
yeah, it's not
I'm
for
not a real
everybody.
outdoorsy person. I
And
like to look at outside. I like my windows open and to see nature, but I don't necessarily want to sit in it.
yeah, I feel like I'm kind of inclined to stay in my studio and paint a lot too, and that doing the plein air painting is kind of a way of getting me out more. Um, and I think people just like to see that from a viewer's point of view on my channel. Everything is in my office, on the same computer screen, and it ends up looking very similar. And so to be able to go out and I think and do these paintings at the zoo and have something else other than my studio in the background is nice. I would like to someday be able to go to the pyramids and paint the pyramids, or go to the Amazon rainforest and paint different animals and things like that. But I think until they make waterproof drawing tablets, that's probably not going to happen. um, is it easier to prepare your own style in every aspect of an art piece, or just focus on one aspect, like coming up? Which I guess by coming up you mean getting more popular. That's a that's phrased kind of strangely. Let me try that one more time. Is it easier to prepare your own style in every aspect of an art piece, or just focus on one aspect? I'm gonna try to guess how you want me to answer that. Preparing your own style. I don't know. I don't know if I really have a style per se, so I don't know if I'm a good person to have advice on that. My style, I guess, is to not really do the same thing all the time. So I guess my style is not having a style. Focusing on your style or trying to do something that's going to make you more popular is kind of a creative choice, I guess. Like I could do a lot of fan art on my channel and do entirely Star Wars and Minecraft and whatever is really popular, and I'd probably get a lot more subscribers that way and a lot more views. But that's not really my goal as an artist, and I wouldn't enjoy doing that. So for me, I'd probably focus more on my style rather than doing something that'll advance my career. Hopefully that answered that question. Do you want to
I
try
think
to tackle
the
that?
style too. And even myself, there was a time where I was kind of freaking myself out over, I don't have a style. There's no style. How do I make a style? That comes with time. And the more you paint, you're going to develop a style and not even realize it. It was funny
Yeah.
because I was around other artists and I was doing my whole whining, oh my gosh, I have no style. I don't know how to make one. And they were like, what are you talking about? I can look at all of your paint. Like you can put your paintings in a room and I will always know which ones were yours. Um, it's just something that happens. You don't necessarily realize it. When I started looking around, it's like, oh, you are right. All of these paintings are kind of connected. You know, this one has a goldfish, this one has a goldfish in the earth, this one has the earth and the whales, and they're all kind of tied in together. And style, I think, isn't something that you can really force. It's just something that happens from what you're interested in. The more you're painting and the more you're drawing, that's just going to develop. So I wouldn't generally recommend artists focus too much on like trying to create a style. That's
Yeah.
just going to happen from creating what you love.
It seems like that's a really common question. I don't know if it is for you, but
Yes.
how do you create your own style? And there's I can't think of another analogy, but there aren't very many things in life that just happen. You know, I think people are used to putting in effort and getting something. You know, like if I do this, I'll get this. But it isn't one of those things. A style, I guess, is the day you die, people look at everything you've done and they piece together this is that person's style, you know.
Yeah.
You could look at, like you said, Pablo Picasso earlier when he was a young adult, young child. You know, he did amazing, super realistic paintings that could rival, you know, any of the masters at the time. At the time, you could say that was his style, but older Pablo Picasso is doing something completely different. You know, Guernica looks nothing like his older work from when he was younger. And so then you could say, well, now that's Pablo Picasso's style, but really it's the sum of all his things that he's done that kind of define his style. And that goes for you too. You can't be a new artist and really have a style, and you can't go out and buy one. You can't have somebody give you one. You have to make the art years and years and years and years. Then that's your style.
Yeah.
Um, getting a few questions about who you are. Just for everybody who's tuning in now, this is Lisa from Lachri Fine Art, and we have our little names down there at the bottom too. Um, Here's a good one for you that I don't know if I'll be much help on, but I'll try. Fallahan wants to know, with colored pencil, what are some tips for making white lamb's fur look white and not gray?
I have a video. If you look up, I think on Google, on YouTube, just do a search for Lachri and how to paint white. It would apply the same. I'll show you how to use Photoshop and an eyedropper tool to get your colors right, to get an idea of what colors there are there. They probably are going to be gray and blue and purple or whatever is around them. There's not going to be a lot of actual white. You'll have some white highlights, but you're not going to have a whole lot of actual white. Whenever you're painting or drawing something that is white, very little of it will be really white. So yes, it's going to look gray, but when you back up and look at it, it's a white lamb.
Mm-hmm.
But look up that video on, I think just if you do Lachri and how to paint white, it should come up showing you how to use an eyedropper tool to really see what colors you need there.
Yeah. White is one of those things where it has to have something darker surrounding it for you to know that it's white. You know, like as soon as you put even just a shade darker than white next to that white stands out. If it's the only color there and you can't put anything lighter on it to give it a highlight, then I could see how it might look gray. And I know with colored pencil, there's some mediums out there that you get the white colored pencil and you think it's going to be pure white, and then it's not. That's as white as it gets for that particular brand of colored pencil.
Yeah, and that's where using white paper, I think, is really important. I just finished a demonstration. The video will be up next week, working on black paper. I get people asking me to do that all the time. colored pencils are fairly translucent. So while yes, I'm using a white pencil on it and you can tell that it's white, it's never going to be as bright as it would if I were working on white paper.
Hmm.
So the paper you're using is something to also keep in mind when working with colored pencil. That's one I'll be talking about a lot in that video.
Yeah, yeah. Using the paper as your white without putting anything on it is probably
Exactly.
best. I worked with colored pencil a lot before I got into digital, and yeah, there can be some frustrating things about it, but even so, in any medium that, like Lisa said, white fur on a lamb, that's something that comes up a lot. Should you use white or black? And a lot of the times, white, black, and all the gray colors end up absorbing some color from the environment around them. And so, if you're going to paint a lamb or a cloud, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to use the white paint swatch or the white paint tube or the white crayon.
Yeah.
Um, Here's a good one, another good one from Anurag. How often do you find time to interact with the artist community? For example, have you ever gone to conventions or events for artists?
For me, besides art shows, no, and now even less so. I just don't have time. YouTube has pretty much taken over my life, so I don't get out much at all, unfortunately.
I'd like to do some conventions. If I could get one of these companies to have me as a guest for Comic Con or something, I'd go do that. Um, I've thought about going to some of the conventions around here and maybe doing something, but I think a lot of that you have to end up paying a lot to have a table, and then you have to have merchandise to sell. I'm I'm just super lazy about having prints and having merchandise. I have all this stuff. Like I should do a tour of my other room that has tons and tons of paint, brushes, acrylic bags for prints, mats for prints, just all this stuff. Like if I actually made prints and like did all that stuff, I could probably sell them. But it's just yeah, like you, I'm really focused on the YouTube thing, and so I don't. That would be a whole separate job that would, I wouldn't be able to make a video a week or more than that if I was focusing so much on prints and
Yeah.
conventions and stuff. I think it works
Which
for
is
some.
funny. It's like a circle, though. You wouldn't really, if you didn't build up your YouTube, you wouldn't probably be invited to as many conventions. It's
Yeah,
like they kind of fight each other
yeah.
there.
As far as art shows, I've done a few locally around here, and then I go to as many as I can for my artist friends. I just recently went to a screening of a film that my friend made. They had a couple bands playing there, so I don't really get out in the art community. Like probably hardly anybody knows who I am here in Seattle. Like all of my followers and my fans are all around the world, but probably not very many in Seattle. And I kind of prefer that. I don't, the art scene around here, I feel like it's kind of fad based. Like you'll be really popular for X amount of time, but then someone else will come along and people will forget all about you. I don't really want to play that game. I'd
Yeah.
I'd rather just do my own thing and get exposure around the world rather than be focused on making it as an artist locally.
Yeah, that's it. You're covering more territory that way.
Hmm.
I love the internet for artists right now. It's just so good.
It's one of those things where people are resistant to it, but honestly, the old way of being an artist is come and gone. Like whatever people did pre-internet, I don't know what they did. They went out and networked, they went to conventions, all stuff that we don't want to do. And that's how they made it. And if you want to follow that path because you think that you're going to end up with the same level of success, you're going to be sorely disappointed because that path is completely different now. And the internet it may not be the only way forward. You could still be successful without the internet, but I think it's so easy to use. Why
Yeah.
not? Why not do it? And if you don't get in on it now, it's going to be even more saturated than it is, to the point to where there'd be no point in starting a YouTube channel. There'd be no point in having an Instagram account, and that happens to websites. So for all my artist friends who I've been trying to get to start a YouTube channel, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm always encouraging people to do the same.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. That might be one of the questions. Why did you start your YouTube channel?
I have an art hero. His name's Jaime Jimenez. He has worked on a lot of projects that people would recognize, and I can't think of the names of half of them right now. Star Wars, he did some of the background paintings for that. Amazing, amazing artist. And I met him when I was about 22, 23, and he was the one who did a little demonstration showing me how to blend wet into wet, and every bit of advice he ever gave me was just amazing and so helpful. So I kind of for years have had this, if Jaime suggests it, I have to do it. He's never steered me wrong. And so
Hmm.
one day he was like, hey, you should make a video of yourself painting. Done. So I did. I set up, I wonder if I have it over here, this little teeny like flip cam. I set that up. I taped it to shelves that were behind me because I didn't have a setup. So I'm
Hmm.
like using masking tape to tape it
Yeah.
onto the shelf. And I just recorded myself painting. And that's how it started because I did it because Jaime told me to.
Hmm. That's cool. Well, it was worth it because it took off and it's been extremely helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
I just wanted it to be able to embed the videos onto my website. I thought it would make my website more interesting. I didn't understand that people would subscribe to you on YouTube and how YouTube really worked at the time. So, but yeah, it's turned out good.
it's kind of one of those things where like you started to see, oh, I'm getting all these views, I'm getting ad revenue, I'm getting more sales, and like, why didn't I do this earlier, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. I had I had a roommate for a while, and then he moved out, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? You know, my rent's going to double, or I have to have somebody move in who I don't know, and how can I make more money? So I'll try this YouTube thing, and I'd had a couple of videos up before that, but nothing really too serious. Started putting up these videos, and I started seeing, wow, like I can actually pay, I can actually pay to live in this house by myself now, or I can afford to move out of this house and move to a better house, or just it, it it ended up just like turning on the faucet for my career for the most part, to where I went from like starving artist to basically being, semi-successful artist, not overnight, but in a very short period of time, just from putting my stuff on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I'd tried all kinds of stuff, like all the different websites, portfolios, having a website, going around locally and showing stuff in cafes, all that stuff, and nothing really ever did it. But as soon as I tried YouTube, it's like there's just so many people watching, there's so many people watching with different points of view and different interests, that you're gonna get a big audience as long as you put yourself out there.
I find too that YouTube has helped as far as me getting respect locally. So there's a place that I display my work regularly, and I look back at a few years ago how people treated me or how they talked to me versus how they do now, knowing about YouTube. It's incredible the difference of. I mean, the work, yeah, I've improved some, but not to the extent to see that big of a change in how people spoke to me and treated me. That
Yeah.
YouTube really gave me this bit of credibility that I didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I didn't know the things then that I know now. It's just that they didn't know that I knew what
Yeah.
I did.
And that's kind of how it is. Sometimes people need, they need to be able to see that, other people are interested in your stuff, so then they're more likely to
Yeah.
be interested in it too. But it is definitely a good way to get your work out there. Whether you're, some people feel like, well, I'm not a video person. I don't want to really be on camera. I don't know what to say. Go and watch any
Neither
of my
was
older videos. My older videos are like me on an iPad in a dark bedroom, speaking as if I'm talking to myself. And with each video, I've gotten better and better about not saying and ah every 2 seconds, and having good lighting, and working out all of the things that I thought would be difficult. I thought video editing would be difficult. Having a intro screen would be difficult. Having end cards are difficult. Making thumbnails would be difficult, but it's not, because I've gotten to the point to where it's just part of my routine, and it becomes your job. And I think once you start making some money off of it, then you'll have that reward, and you'll want to invest more time into promoting yourself.
Yeah.
Um, So we were going to go an hour. We got about 5 minutes left. So let's do a little bit of shameless self promotion here. And I'll just mention that if we missed any questions, feel free to ask those questions in the comment for this video, which it is being recorded, and so it'll be available on my channel later. Ask those questions there, and then we'll try to answer those after the live stream. So Lisa, do you want to do a quick screen share and show off your channel and some stuff?
Okay. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that
Oh,
really
wait, okay.
quick.
So
Um,
the little three buttons in the top right, and then screen
yeah.
share. Yeah.
Let's see. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Okay, so you can go over to my website. I've got information on everything there. If you are curious about anything, you can do a search anything. I mean, I've got blog posts on so many things. If you've got an art question, chances are I've got a video about it in a blog. Um, all of this information is here on my site. You can also go over to youtube.com/Lachri and maybe it'll load. There we go.
Yay.
Here I've got over 600 public videos that you can watch, whether it be tutorials or just information. Q&A. I've got a lot of Q&As and artist vlogs, tons of information for artists there. You can also sign up for Patreon, which is patreon.com/Lachri, where again, I've got a lot of tutorials, but these ones are 1 to 2 hour long tutorials. So if you want more than what I've got on YouTube, that is also an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I watch a lot of your videos and I find them really helpful. So it's definitely check out Lisa's work there. My best way to find me, I guess, if you're watching now, you probably are already familiar with my channel. But just in case you aren't, I'm at youtube.com/Aaron Rutten, which you can see down there at the bottom of the screen. AaronRutten.com is my website. I also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Aaron Rutten. So with that, unless there's anything else you'd like to share, Lisa, we can call this one a wrap.
Yeah. And are we doing this again on my channel next week? Or
Yeah.
when did you?
I don't think we've picked a date yet, but yeah, next week well,
Coming soon.
yeah, coming soon, part 2 on Lisa's channel. Thank you everybody for watching today. It was great having you, and thank you for all the excellent comments and questions. That really made it easy for us. We didn't have to use too many of our own questions. All right. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.